Okay, we're preparing to live stream. Game face is on. Okay, we are live. Great, we can get started. Mary, did you want to kick things off?
Yes, so we are now in, what is this, our fourth event of Caribbean Film Forum. We are doing events, we started about a month or something ago. No, more than that. Every 3 weeks or so, we are doing these events in which we are trying to bring people who work in film or who study film or who have an interest in film in the Caribbean, or there's really some kind of Caribbean connection. And we are trying to generate conversations across boundaries, between people from different countries, between people who sometimes speak different languages, because we find in the Caribbean a lot of times we have things, many things that we have in common, but we have these sort of barriers. We don't always get to talk to each other. So it has been super interesting so far, and we find like the conversations are, it's a great opportunity to compare notes. So we are super happy today. I should mention the hosts are Dunja Fahimovic, who is the University of Newcastle, and she teaches film there, specializes in film in the Caribbean. And I am the founder of the Film Certificate at the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez, where I teach film in Puerto Rico. And we are collaborating on this, and we've been, I think, lucky because we are kind of drawing audiences from Europe, from North America, from the Caribbean, and a lot of different places. So we are hoping that this conversation will keep expanding. So I think we've got a great group of people today. Very happy. I will explain the format of the event, and then I'm going to give a little bit of information about each of the people who are joining us today. And then I will present, we will start with presentations by each of the filmmakers, which may incorporate some examples, visual examples of their work. And then we will, there will be kind of formal presentations by each person for about between 5 and 10 minutes each. Then Dunja and I will ask some questions, but we also invite the audience. You are more than welcome to submit your questions via the chat in either Zoom or in Facebook, and we will be looking at the chat, and we will be posing your questions to our panelists today. So please feel free to comment at any time. We may not ask the questions immediately if we have a lot of questions, but we really hope you will participate. So the introductions. We have with us today from Cuba, Ernesto Pina Rodriguez. Ernesto, you do not see his face because it's kind of hard to connect from Cuba. So he is watching this conversation, and he is available via chat. So if we will be presenting a video presentation that Ernesto did, and I will be doing my best to translate it or at least summarize what he says. And then I'm going to show you very quickly a couple of clips of his work. And he is listening. He is with us. So if, as you're watching, you have any questions for Ernesto, feel free to write them in the chat. So then, okay, Ernesto will be first. Then we have then Alan Vidal. Well, let me introduce Ernesto. Ernesto is a animator from Cuba. He has he graduated from the in fine arts from the Instituto Superior de Artes in Cuba in 2006. He has been working in the animation department of ICAIC, the National Film Institute, since then, and he is about to release his, I believe it's his first feature film, the animated film La Super. La Super being, of course, like the feminine for super, as in the superintendent of your building, but female. We also have with us Alain Bidar from Martinique. Alain is award-winning. Alain has won a ton of awards. He has been making films since 2000, since he graduated from Supinfocom, one of the best 3D animation schools in Europe. He created the first feature animated film in the Caribbean in 2015, Battleship Chronicle, which has won many, many awards throughout the world and is continuing to work. We also have with us Quique Rivera from Puerto Rico. Quique Rivera, I think a lot of people in Puerto Rico know Quique. His work is pretty prominent. He's done music videos for Calle 13. He has made, he is a United States fellow, I believe. Quique can tell us, but I believe that was a year-long fellowship, very prestigious, with a pretty nice stipend to just work on your work. A very prestigious fellowship. He was nominated for a Latin Grammy. Has worked with Calle 13, as I mentioned, and has his work shown in many international film festivals. Camille Selvin from Trinidad is the founding director of Anime Caribe Animation and Digital Media Festival, program coordinator of animation studies at the University of Trinidad. She does many things. I think she's super organized. I know from working with her, if you ask her for something, it's going to arrive, it's going to be on time, it's going to be very well done. And she studied animation at Goldsmith University in London. And she's, I think, done quite a lot to put animation on the map in Trinidad as an animator herself, and also all of these businesses and educational programs that she has been in large part responsible for founding. There is also Coretta Singer from Jamaica. We advertised that Coretta would be with us, but unfortunately Coretta had someone very close to her and her family died, and she's not going to be able to be with us today. I will show some short videos of an interview with her and a short clip of her work when it's time for her to present. So although she's not going to be with us today, I did kind of want to recognize her because, and we're also the idea of this is, of course, that this is representing many of different countries in the Caribbean. We definitely want to, shout out to Jamaica, because there are things definitely going on in Jamaica. Okay, I will present. To start, Ernesto has made a video, which is partly in English and partly in Spanish. I'm going to play it now. And then I'm going to play some very short clips of his. I'm going to do my best to translate. I know so there's some other people here who speak Spanish, so if I get stuck, I'm counting on you. Okay, so let's see.
Hello everyone, I am Ernesto Viña. Nice to meet you. Greetings from here, from Cuba. I want you to know something about me, about my work. Well, let's see what can I do with my English, first of all. Well, I've studied art in Camagüey, in the province here in Cuba, learning how to make a landscape, portrait, self-portrait also, the human body, design, how to paint, and then it was very useful for me because I have my talent since I was a child. When I was 5 years old, I started to make some draws, as a kid, and my mom and my dad check all of the what I'm doing, and mostly my mom continue to give me motivation. I start to make some comics, some cartoons. I am very big fan of cartoons and comic and animation in general, art in general. So, ok, voy a tratar de hablar en español un poco porque a veces no me salen las palabras en inglés. Cuando empecé a estudiar en la escuela de arte me di cuenta de que todas esas herramientas que estaba teniendo a mi alcance pues eran importantísimas para poder desarrollar toda la amalgama de ideas que tenía en mi cabeza y no sabía cómo organizarlas, y eso me ayudó.
So he says that when he went to art school, everything that he learned in art school gave him the tools to be able to express all these ideas that he had in his head and didn't know how to get out.
Me ayudó mucho a organizar todas las ideas y todas las cosas. Siempre fui una persona que observadora, todo el tiempo viendo lo que hacía la gente, lo que sabe. Y comencé a usar mi trabajo en función de eso. O sea, empecé a aprovecharme de todo lo que sucedía a mi alrededor en cuanto a ideas y en cuanto a situaciones en la sociedad mía, ¿no?
He says that he's always been a very observant person. He loves to watch people and watch what's going on around him, and he has that has helped him in terms of the animation that he makes.
Empecé a transformarla en animaciones en este caso. Me fui dando cuenta de que era mucho más de la narrativa cinematográfica. Cuando estaba estudiando arte en ELISA, Instituto Superior de Arte, decidí hacer un tipo de animación cinematográfica y dije, ¿por qué no? ¿Por qué no usar el lenguaje del cine si al final es arte también? Tuve conflictos en algún punto con algunos profesores en la escuela porque decían que no había ninguna diferencia de lo que yo hacía a lo que se hacía a nivel industrial, que por qué yo hacía este tipo de cosas así, en fin, bueno.
He says that when he was in art school, he decided he wanted to go into animation, but he had some conflicts with professors who thought that they couldn't see a difference between what he was doing and what was commercial or what was done in the industry.
Yo me defendí en mi tesis de grado con un animado que hablaba sobre mí mismo y sobre estos conflictos que yo tenía con los profesores. Hice como una especie de animación, performance. Okay, during my...
So he, in his thesis, he dealt with those conflicts, and I think he presented an animated film and dealt exactly with those conflicts which had come up with his professors.
In studies in the art school here in La Habana, in the university, I created a kind of project group, with some people to help me to do my works, my animation. I named it Erpiro Studio. Ernesto P. Piña Ro Rodriguez, Erpiro Studio. That is my channel in YouTube. You can watch it. I have my own page in Facebook too, and also in Instagram. First of all, I present my animation in a special festival, a kind of festival here in La Habana named New Filmmakers or something like that. I don't know how the translation in English. La muestra de nuevos realizadores, o la muestra joven ICAIC, como se llama actualmente. bueno, que ahora está, ¿sabes?, en stand-by because of the COVID-19. Bueno, el Peer Studio fue creado con el objetivo de expresar historias, ideas que fueran totalmente diferentes a lo que se venía haciendo en animación aquí en Cuba.
He says El Piro Studios that he created was founded with the idea of creating animation which was completely different from other animation that was being done in Cuba.
Que la animación aquí en Cuba principalmente se trabaja para los niños, para la niñez y la adolescencia principalmente, pero no existía un tipo de animación, vamos a decir, un poco más para los adultos, para...
Said most animation was made for children and adolescents and there was not really anything for adults.
¿Sabes? Poner a pensar un poco más, hacer un tipo de historia que conectara más con ese público. Que en el mundo, bueno, de hecho se hace un montón de años, pero aquí en Cuba parece que desde que se creó el ICAIC, creo que desde los años 70 para acá, comenzó con otra idea de promover la animación más bien para los niños, algo que yo creo que lo limitó mucho la creatividad por esa parte. Yo creo que justamente eso es lo que me llamaba la atención, que no se hiciera nada claro, y como yo vengo de las artes plásticas, en el cual me enseñan a profundizar un poco más en los conceptos, en las ideas, pues por ahí me fui y conecté a la gente con mi trabajo, con cosas más parecidas a estas que están viendo, ¿no? Que son animaciones que tienen un corte cinematográfico, pero al mismo tiempo con un mensaje, vamos a decir, un poco más que no, los niños no lo entienden a lo mejor de a la primera, ¿no?
He said that Ikaik tended to make animation for children, and his art school training made him want to create something that was more complex, more like what you're seeing in the background, the animation that you're seeing in background, that children might not especially understand.
Es lógico. Entonces, aunque no me gusta subestimar a los niños, que los niños hoy en día son muy pícaros. Bueno, yo diría que en sentido general la vida nos ha demostrado que son así. Pero tienen sus códigos y tienen sus fórmulas. Y sobre todo en el mundo de la animación, hay que ver de qué forma se les expresa las cosas para que les sea más factible para su mentecita, ¿no? En el caso de mi obra, pues va más conectada con el mundo de los adultos, porque me pongo a profundizar en temas más pegados a lo que suceden socialmente, ¿no? A nivel nacional.
Says he doesn't really like to underestimate children, because they can be very smart. But there are certain social themes that would not perhaps be the best for children, and that's really kind of the direction that he wants to go in.
A nivel internacional y así. Y también uso temas que son, vamos a decir, universales, como es el caso del amor, la amistad, y combinado con otras cosas, ¿no? Entonces, pues, por ahí va mi obra. Well, I'm very sorry because I couldn't speak a lot of English. I have to learn better and to express myself better. Okay, I wanted to thank you to Dunja and Mary for the invitation for the forum. Thank you, all of you guys, for the opportunity, and thank you so much for the invitation, representing Cuban animation in the forum. Okay, take care of yourself. The pandemic continues. Be careful. Be careful. Thank you very much.
Okay. That's Ernesto, yay. So now I want to show you a very short clip, just the very beginning of a series that Ernesto did called Pubertad, or Puberty for ICAIC, which is clearly aimed at kids as they go through puberty and they don't really understand what's going on. And this is a film to a series that that helps them with that. So 1 second, let me make sure I've got that.
Sorry about that.
Dicen que hoy todo me cambia y que eso va a colgar mi cuerpo, mi forma de ser, y los grandes le llaman pubertad, pubertad, pubertad. Dicen que hoy todo me cambia.
All right, so that's just a little taste of that. And I will also show you the trailer, the teaser for the new feature film that is, I believe, about to be released.
La súper es buena, pero si no lo consigue, lo siento, súper.
Olvídalo. Nos vemos. Tengo clases. Soy G. Valentina. ¿No me conoces?
¡Eh, Valentina!
Santi, ¿quién es la super esa?
Coronel, tenemos fotos de ella, videos, pero nada más.
No se nos puede seguir escapando.
Y ellas son las químicas de Ciudad X.
Vamos, usa tu poder armonía.
¡Una superheroína de verdad! ¡Haría bien este tipo de cosas!
Okay, so that is Ernesto and Ernesto's work. And now we are going to have presentations by the rest of our participants. So I'm going to hand it over right now to Alain to talk about his work.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for inviting me. I'm first going to show you my presentation. I can't hear anyone. Can you hear me?
On mute. We can hear you though. Don't worry.
So, my name is Alain Bidard. I'm from Martinique. I'm an animation film director. And well, I've been drawing from the age of 3, and but that was not what I wanted to do for a job. I wanted to be a doctor, and but during my last year of high school, I well, when I knew that math would be one of the one of the part of my studies, I said no, no, no. I didn't want to get back to that, but I kept drawing and drawing, and I became better at drawing and telling stories. So I told myself, okay, my 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 second interest was art, so I went to do this. So back in the days, there was a school in France called Superfocom, that is now called Ru- Rubica, and it was the best school in Europe, the best 3D school. I was not supposed to only apply to that school, but that's what I did, and finally I've been accepted. And so I went to study there, and well, in the year 2000, I got my degree, my master degree, and I could create animation. When I went out of school, I had my first short film made with 3 other students. and it has received some nomination in festivals. And but when I went to look for a job in Paris, things were more difficult than I thought, and I learned a new reality that there was a cyclical crisis in animation every 3 or 5 years, and I was at the beginning of one of those crises. So a lot of companies were were applying for bankruptcy. So I came back to Martinique. I was supposed to just go to Martinique, then go to United States or Canada, but finally I stayed in Martinique. The difference in Martinique between Martinique and France is that in Martinique, the animation industry was not developed back in the day, and so people were not used to just have an animator or a modeler or any expert. They were just used to end products. So they knew what was an animation film, but they couldn't hire me because so I was an animator, but they didn't have anything for me to animate. So I had to create everything. So that's, if I wanted to stay in Martinique, I had to learn that. So that is what I did. And I kept learning and learning and learning, and to this day I keep practicing and learning new things. So it's a never-ending learning process. And so my type of animation is based on 3D. So it's not exactly 3D, because when you watch it, it looks like 2D animation, but it's using 3D software. So I really appreciate to have a third dimension to work, and it really gives me the same tools that we have on live action sets. And the style I'm using is called cell shading. So it's a very specific style where you use 3D to create 2D content. And it's a difficult style. It really seems to be easy, but it's a very difficult style for one reason. There's no one way to do it. Why? Because you see the line of the artist in the end product, which was the first reason why I wanted to do cell shading. I don't really like 3D, the pure 3D, the 3D from Pixar, 3D from Disney. I don't like it because I feel it's a little bit too cold, and we don't see the soul of the artist in the end product. And I really wanted to see myself in the results. So I was already drawing, so it was a battle to succeed to keep the same line that I was doing on paper, make this line appear in the final animation. But I've been doing this for 20 years. So that was that's the endless battle that I've been having. I generally make animation for young people, but not children. Children can watch because there's no violent content or any shocking thing. But the thematic that I use are generally for teenagers or young adults. So for my history, after my studies, I came back in Martinique, and during 10 years, I made short films, about 7 to 10 short films. Most of them were contract. And after that, I wanted to go further because I created a film, a 26-minute film that was a drama, and I really liked the format, so I wanted to go further. And I created my first feature film. It was difficult because there was no there's no environment for that, and people did not believe that it was possible in Martinique. So I found myself to be the first to create something like that in Martinique. And after that, I've been doing three short films, and now I'm finishing my second feature film. So it's that. And about the team, the styles, I like to create stories that relate to my culture, because my culture is absolutely not represented in animation. Before what I did, I never saw my culture, and I wanted to see it. So I tried to do that. I didn't know it would be such a hard battle, but I'm really happy to have succeeded to give to my Highland the possibility to see themselves a little bit in the art of animation. So.
Thank you, Alan. Kike. So now we're going to hear from Kike Rivera.
You're on mute. Oh, wait.
You're muted.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. First, thank you for the opportunity. I'm truly honored to be next to all of these amazing artists that are really, like landmarks in the history of animation in the Caribbean, which is like a place where, like it's been mentioned before, it's kind of like animation is kind of young in the region, and our efforts are not voiced often enough. So I really appreciate that you're making this panel, and I'm truly honored to be like standing next to true legends of animation in the Caribbean. I'm gonna talk a little bit about myself now. I kind of stumbled upon animation. I didn't really plan for it. Back in Puerto Rico when I was growing up, it was not really something you would consider as a career even. Like there was, we consumed animation, but it was not something that you would think of as a potential career. You never thought about the behind the scenes, similar to what Alain was mentioning before. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I entered my undergrad years in Puerto Rico, the University of Puerto Rico. But I had like certain inclination for arts, and I also started audiovisual communication program, which was I didn't really know what it meant at the time, but it ended up being film, and it happened to be that was just where I had to be. And I also kind of had a late start in the arts, even though I liked it. I didn't really formally study it till my bachelor days. And I started with drawing. Like first, my concentration was going to be drawing, and I hadn't learned it till then. So I'm like, oh, this is really exciting. I was being taught how to draw from visual reference, looking at something and being able to like create shapes, get the shades, and kind of like I had never, known how to do that. And it was really exciting for me. And then my second year, I started exploring sculpting, and that was like even more kind of mind-blowing for me, because at first, I was able to create this illusion in a piece of paper of something that I'm looking at, and then suddenly I was able to create objects that you could turn around, you could move around, you could look, I started looking at everything, and everything was exciting. So, oh, I can build that if I want it, all of a sudden, like I was creating this awareness of like these qualities that made me kind of like want to jump from one step to the next. And then I also was really into photography, and I would take really nice pictures of my sculptures. I would put the camera on a tripod, make really nice lighting for it. And one day I was making this bust sculpture, and I was taking pictures of it on a tripod, and I realized, it was just like this head staring straight into the camera. It had shoulders, and I'm like, well, maybe if I just turn the head a little bit, it's a more dynamic pose, it's a little bit more expressive. And I did that, and then looking at the pictures on my camera, I'm like, oh my God, like it's not that it was a big secret, everyone sort of knows how stop motion works, but up until that time, I hadn't realized it was something that I could create stuff that could move in time, create the illusion of it, so it was kind of that ultimate jump that I thought like, oh, this is like the ultimate step in an artist's career, or a piece of art, like being able to create the illusion of life of something that I created with my own hands. And then I was immediately enamored with the medium. And I started, you know, like I mentioned before, there weren't really any education opportunities for that in Puerto Rico. And even within the animation world, stop motion is kind of its own little niche that is like a very kind of like, there's not many opportunities in general for learning stop motion. So I had amazing art teachers that would kind of guide me through the process of discovering myself as an artist, but I was a little bit, there weren't really many opportunities to learn from someone who has done it before. So I dedicated the next 3 years after I graduated, or well, like the last year of my bachelor's degree and the next 2 years to just like teaching myself everything I could about stop motion processes. And every single YouTube tutorial I could find on fabrication for stop motion, editing, just like putting together animation theory, and just putting together little exercises and short films that started giving shape to kind of like just learning stop motion. And then with that, I finally make a film and I applied to CalArts. And there's like a former faculty of mine is there, Maureen Furnace, and I learned a lot over there. Thank you for being here, Maureen, by the way. And yeah, like part of me was like, oh, I feel like I'll never really learn this trade until I go somewhere where they actually teach it or where there's an actual industry, you know? And to my great surprise, you know, I was really prepared with all those years of self-teaching. And it goes to show, you know, sometimes we minimize ourselves for not having like, not coming from places where there's like a big industry in what we want to do. But if you have the passion, like I feel like you can get it done, you know. And I'm part of my mission afterwards. Obviously, I went to CalArts, I learned a ton more, you know, and I've been living in LA for 10 years now. So after I graduated, I kept working in the industry in Los Angeles, where there's like a very vibrant stop motion industry. And every time I can, I teach workshops in Puerto Rico and just keep trying to give others the opportunities of discovering something like I said, I discovered it by accident. I wish someone had told me earlier. You know, I would have started when I was 16, and trying to kind of create awareness of the stop motion media and animation in general in Puerto Rico. And yeah, I have a clip too, but I wanted to say the situation in Puerto Rico has changed a lot since I grew there, and there's a lot more animation happening, and there's a lot of animation programs that are also being done, a lot of even stuff that I don't even know about. But every day I discover new artists that are like doing animation in Puerto Rico, and like new places where they're doing like different experimenting stuff. And I'm really proud of that. And I think it's part of what we're going to be talking a little bit later, but I'll go more into that later. For now, I put together a little reel. It's not like a conventional reel where you see kind of like the highlights. It's a little bit, I wanted to give you more of a sense of how the films work within themselves. So it's little scenes. It's a little jarring. So just be advised, you know, it kind of jumps from project to project in a weird way, but there's little sequences from different projects. It's almost chronological for my career. So you'll see kind of, I mean, I did some things to make it work better in the edit, but generally speaking, it's more or less a trajectory of some of my pieces. And subject matter, usually I like to work a lot with animals. My parents are biologists, both of them. So I was always surrounded by, you know, like, oh, you know that bird? And they would tell me the scientific name of the bird. You know, we're always paying attention to the animals in Puerto Rico and everywhere we went. So it's a heavy influence in most of my work. And I also do, they're not really like, it's kind of like an in-between between fine art or conceptual art and filmmaking. Like I don't really consider them to be straightforward narratives necessarily, but they're also not entirely conceptual. So it's like a lot of allegorical content, and then also commercial work, which you'll see some of it in the little demo reel I'll show. And then here it goes. Are you guys seeing the screen already? Okay. Sound? Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah,
Okay, there's some blacked out parts of the screen. I don't know if you want to start again because of the way you've shared it. I guess where the Zoom app is, it's blacking out part of your screen, and I don't
Okay, let me. Is this better?
to ruin your lovely reel.
Is this better, or are you still seeing it?
I think you need to unshare and then share again because right now,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's the way you select the app and not the
Got
Zoom
it.
app. Possibly.
So should I do the full screen then, with the desktop instead of the QuickTime window?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, I'll try that then.
Yeah, I think that full screen works best.
Yeah.
Is that good now?
That's good, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Si quiere darle vida a un ciclo nuevo, cada cierto tiempo pone huevos.
No come mucho porque es de sangre fría y se alimenta de moscas que viven un solo día. Y si no hay comida, no lo culpo. Si se alimenta de su propio cuerpo como los pulpos, no moriría aunque su cuerpo entero se comiera. Es como las salamandras, rápido se regenera.
I'm so hungry, I'd eat anything.
Hungry? I remember hungry. I used to be like that all the time.
What did you do?
Snacked on Yo Magic, bro. Now I have time to hang fit.
By day, he is mild-mannered fifth grader John Olivier. But from the time school lets out until dinner, he becomes the unconventionally handsome hero, Johnny Strong, a kick-ass hero with a bad attitude.
Thank you.
Really great. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, and Acho Studio is my studio, which is like Acho is an expression that we use in Puerto Rico. It's kind of like I guess something similar to what you say, like dude, hey dude, like, you know. But I like to me, I mean, whenever an English speaking ask me about it, I say it's Animation Choice Studio, but it's really like a wink to Puerto Rican culture and Puerto Rican slang. Yeah, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. That was great, Kike. So now we're going to go with Camille, and she's going to tell us about herself and her work.
Okay, hi everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity to share our stories, because as all of the past presenters said, we don't often get to do that. So thank you so much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation that has the clips in it. It's just an easier way for me to do it. So just some background on me. I mean, attended Goldsmiths University to study music, film and video. Yeah, that was my first thing. That was my first choice. It was the time when MTV was like just starting. So that kind of dates me a little bit. But MTV was really moving, and I was so interested in doing music videos. So the BFA I did was in communications with specialization in all different elements. And I got a taste of everything. I got a taste of film, I got a taste of journalism, I got a taste of animation, and then I didn't want to know anything else about film again. Because once I got a taste of animation, I was like, okay, that's it. I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this anymore. And I stuck with it. So I specialize in animation. And what really got me to kind of figure out what am I going to do with my future was when I won, my film won the Royal Television Society Award, which I have here in London, in the London region for students. And I obviously, you hear my accent, I'm a Caribbean person living in London, telling a story about colonization, and I won one of the most prestigious awards in London. So that kind of, I always felt that I needed to come back home because, you know, if you're, you know, from anywhere, if you're from the Caribbean, home will always be the Caribbean. So I came back home in 2001, but what I found was that there was I didn't have a platform I didn't have a history of animation. I don't know if the others felt that, you know, if PK and Aline felt that, but when I came back to the Caribbean, I had no history to look on. I had no history to compare. I had no masters to call upon and say, oh, how did you do this? No, it was empty. So I had two choices. I could jump in a plane and go back to London and just fit within that huge bucket of, you know, people out there doing animation, or, you know, go back to the Caribbean and kind of sacrifice my life to build an industry. And I decided to come back home. Now, what that meant was that my career as an animator had to kind of take a back stage because where I'm from, oil and gas is that's it, oil and gas. So someone coming back saying, oh, let's do animation, it's like, you know, that's not heard of. So it took quite a while for things to start to move, but it did eventually. So in 2008, we started the Diploma in Animation. And then in 2018, we now have the BFA in Digital Media Arts with specialization in animation, gaming, and music technology, of which I am part of. So I'm now the lead for animation at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. I also founded the Anime Carib Festival, which Alain came and I think we featured his film the first time in the Caribbean. His first feature-length film was featured at Anime Carib Festival. And this year we're celebrating 20 years. So what I would like to do is kind of share that history. So what you're going to see some clips. You're not going to see my work. You're going to see work over the years that kind of would give you know, a background as to the industry itself in the Caribbean. So it's a little different to what the others presented, but I think it will be a good match. There is some content in there, but I may skip over some things because this is a presentation. I just tweaked a little in order to share with you all. So this is it. Now I like to call it Caribbean STEAM. Because those who, you know, you would hear about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. But now there's this push for STEAM, which means that, you know, the art of things are coming into technology. And I was so happy when I heard that, because my experience as a student was that I loved art, but I also loved the sciences. And in the Caribbean, you have to do either one or the other. Aline, I don't know if you experienced that in Martinique, but in the Caribbean, they put you off into packages. You could either do sciences or you could do arts. And now that is changing, and I'm really, really happy for that. So I'm going to show you a few bits and pieces. So regarding the festival, it's 20 years old. What we found when we first started the festival, it was really just to kind of let people be aware of what animation is. Because as I said, when I came back to Trinidad, that was not even discussed. So it started as a way to get people to be aware. And what happened over time is that we realized that students were asking, well, where can I learn this? And of course, not everybody could jump in a plane and go to London that I did. So therefore, I pushed for this to be pushed through the university. And then now what we're seeing is that we have students who have graduated, and now we have to find work. We have to put them in places to function. So the festival was very instrumental. In fact, I think the festival was very instrumental for the industry. So I'm going to show you here. There are 3 different clips I'm going to show you. One is this one, which is a show reel for a studio.
You're a genius!
Wait for me! Wait for the big change!
What are we doing? No, I'm married. Kiss me.
Just so we're clear.
To the beat, check it out!
I feel like I don't have that much of a command.
We came to save you.
Nada, please, take them home.
Dad.
Littlefoot.
Ready? Set! Guys, I'm so sorry I ruined our band. You ever forgive me?
Appreciate the apology. And to be fair, I think we all let it get to our heads a little bit.
Thanks, guys.
Oh.
Hey guys, check it out! Minor Scales this Saturday. What?
We're all evenly matched, Christina. Call off the bear and go home. I will win like this.
Carlos? So she does have a secret boyfriend, and she can keep a secret.
So what you're seeing there is a show reel from Full Circle Animation Studio. I'm the founding director of Full Circle Studio. So on my return, that's what I did. I created a small studio, but this is now managed by someone called Jason Lindsay. So I'm still a director in the studio, but it's managed by a wonderful guy called Jason Lindsay. So what you're seeing there is a very commercial aspect to animation. I'm going to show you a very artistic piece now, and I'm not going to show the entire thing either. It's by an artist called Wendell McShine. So I wanted to show you all the variety, the different layers when it comes to what is going on in Trinidad. So this one is So I'm so sorry I can't show the entire thing, but I just wanted to give you a teaser of what's going on now. This here is a game company called Coded Arts in Trinidad and Tobago. So again, I'll show you just some parts. that's just to give you a variety, a very, very broad range of what's going on. So I'll quickly go through the sort of commercial side of it when it comes to the university. So we got some funding from the Inter-American Development Bank to create an outsourcing hub that is connected to the university. That has been a game changer for us because it's the first time that we've been able to actually sort of put what we've done for the past 20 years to the test. We now have the hardware, the software, the trained personnel to actually start this. We have trained over 275 students coming through the program so far. So they've been trained in 2D animation, 3D animation. We've only just launched the game art side of it, so that's relatively new. But we can do most of the aspects when it comes to the pipeline for animation and game. The function of the hub itself is to provide these kind of services and to also put our students to work. So some projects that are coming through would be like, it's almost like working while learning. That's the whole idea, working while learning. And we even have the idea of students being given credits for certain things that they're doing. So it fits within the academic program also. So as I said, they've been taught many, many things. We've had external professionals come in and work with our students. So this is a gentleman called Tyree Dillahy. He's now with Sony Animation Studios, a very prominent director. We have people like Eric Elder, who is into game and game concept. And when Eric came to the Caribbean, when he came to Trinidad and heard of our folklore stories, he was like totally thrown. You know, it was like, what rich content do we have to take to the games? You know, there's so much that can be taken. And he really kind of worked with our students to come up with concepts and continue to work with us. As I said, we have over 275 hungry creatives ready to work. And this gentleman here is from Toon Boom Animation. So we are a Toon Boom accredited program within the university. We also work with a gentleman called Jamal Bradley, who is, you know, worked with many international studios out there and share their work with us. So our students, let me just quickly share what the challenges were. We were getting students just sort of replicating the manga and the Japanese. Now I love manga, I love Japanese. It's a beautiful art form in itself, but we had to go through a whole process of getting them to understand that the environment is beautiful. Their color is beautiful, their skin is beautiful, their hair is beautiful. So yes, you can express yourself through manga, but find ways of, you know, putting your stamp on it. So we had to go through a long process with that. And because of that, you now see the students as sort of replicating their surroundings. So what you're seeing is things that you would see in the Caribbean, characters that you would see in the Caribbean, you know, the animals, the flora, the fauna, things like this, which you would not have seen. They would have created a scene in New York instead of a scene in the Caribbean. And that took a lot of work. This is it's sort of a replica of a place called Belmont in Trinidad. Anybody who's visited the suburbs in Trinidad will see this and immediately think, wow, this is the Caribbean. So that was again, the houses. We still have the colonial presence, and these sort of houses are still very visible. And what we are saying is basically, wouldn't it just be beautiful to see these things on film? This is fresh. This is something that people haven't seen. So we want to say to the world that we can share our experiences as Caribbean people in our stories. We also experimenting with virtual reality. So this is a student that started to experiment.
So you can see this is Kai on the right, and this is Nalini on the left. I can now interact with some items in the world.
I'm going to skip through because it's not just to show you different options.
Harry Otter by J.K. Rowling. Look around the book, and we can come in the back here and see the other books. So we have Crick Crack Monkey. That's a local
right book. We are working on projects like, for instance, those who know Caribbean music will know that this gentleman here is an icon. His name is Marshall Montano. So we are merging the music and the visuals and, you know, really coming up with some new stories that we want to share to the world. There's a small studio that is also we are supporting it in Trinidad. There's a small studio in Tobago. So what we are doing is packaging off a sort of a model that we then take to other Caribbean islands. So those using VPN technology, I heard VPN technology was brought up somewhere, unless I'm remembering something from earlier, but the VPN technology is what will really shift the Caribbean and other areas like the Caribbean. This is our advisory board. So Creek, this gentleman here you would love. His name is Brad Schiff, and he's the animation director for Leica Studios. So I know if you're into stop motion, you would know about Leica Studios, right? So they are responsible for Kubo and the Two Strings and Corpse Bride and Paranorman. Well, he was the director. So he came and so we do have a stop motion lab in the hub. So you're welcome to come to Trinidad anytime and share that lab with us, right? So we have, I'll quickly go through, and this is him here, the gentleman here, that is Brad. And he came and he did a 2-week workshop with us, and we now have things that we could share. I'm going to skip all these things. We do also for some tax credits. So that means that if there's a project in Puerto Rico, you can utilize our tax credits and come in Trinidad and do it right here, right? And I want to share this with you as the last thing, and it is to do with stop motion. And when Brad came, he did a workshop with our students and with the public, and the first time he came, he spent 2 days with us, and they did this short stop motion, and I only pulled it in after I saw what you were saying, so it wasn't part of my presentation. So if I go over, it's because of Kikwe, okay, not because of me. And what you're seeing is street food that we call doubles in Trinidad, right? So doubles is this thing, it's like $3 TT, which is like 50 cents US. And it's just a phenomena. Everybody comes here and they eat doubles. So the little piece you're seeing is actually what happens when people are buying the doubles. So it's very short, so don't blink, but this was what came out of 2 days of training with Brad Schiff.
Façon un channel on it.
So that was 2 days of work that you saw in 20 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. That's my contact.
Fantastic.
Great, thank you. That was great. And as I wrote in the chat, this video is going to be on the page. So there was a lot of information there that people might need to contact you about. There's like so many opportunities,
including me.
So, yes, exactly. So this is what we hope, is that you guys all get to know each other better, and maybe you invite each other to do things, or you collaborate. I don't know, whatever you like. So I do want to include Coretta, even though she's not able to be here. I want to show you a kind of a 3-4 minute interview with her. So we'll have also Jamaica here represented. So this is Coretta Singer from Jamaica. Let's see.
Hi, my name is Coretta Singer, and I'm a 3D generalist and animator. Everybody knew Coretta was going to do something with either comics or something to do with illustration, but I wanted to take it a step further. I like the idea of drawing characters, but I wanted those characters to move and to talk. I want to share that sense of awe and wonder with other people, with my own characters. When I really started kicking it up was someone gave us a copy of Maya, and it was a really steep learning curve. I opened it, I was like, what is this? It's like Greek, and there's no information online as to what to do at the time. YouTube didn't exist back then. I just basically sat down behind the computer and I did all kinds of errors and wrong things, and I just had to sort of teach myself. It was a very hard thing to do, and a lot of people, I guess, would sort of get frustrated and give up, but no matter what happened in my life, I had to be able to do animation. If I didn't do it, I felt like, I can't breathe. It's my oxygen. If I don't do it, it's like, no. I started a Facebook group page so that anybody that I knew that was interested in that or did that could come on, and then other people would start inviting, and you know, it kind of started growing this following. Some people think, all right, you're gonna do a short-term course or you're gonna do it your 4 years and that's it. But that's really just the beginning. You start a whole new level of learning on the job, and you discover things that maybe somebody else doesn't even know. The whole 9-to-5 job sitting behind a desk and filling up papers, that's not me. This is the thing that I wanted to focus on. I have 2 personal projects. One that I'd like to continue, that's called Tale of Shadows. It ended up being so complicated because this is the first time I was using voice actors.
What am I doing wrong?
What ain't you doing wrong?
The story takes place in like the 17th, 18th century, and then you have to think about clothing, you have to think about, well, the weapons. I had to go research a musket, and then I modeled it so it worked exactly that way. So when I did the animation, it looked believable. When I just started, one of the things that people always said to me, oh, it's nice, but it's not Jamaican enough. I don't really sit and think, well, I'm in Jamaica, so it has to be Jamaican. You know, I can draw inspiration from Jamaican things, even from Caribbean things, like what I did with Tale of Shadows. What I learned is everybody has stories to tell. I have stories to tell, you have stories to tell. No one else is going to tell those stories. You have to do it for yourself. And I realized that if I spent all this time trying to please other people with what they wanted to see, the stories I really wanted to tell, the unique stories that are here, were never going to get a chance to come out. My experiences are different from everyone else's, and people are going to express themselves differently, and I think we should allow people to just express themselves.
So that's from like a nice series called Artists of Jamaica. And now I am to finish the presentations. I am just going to show you Coretta's 20 reel from 2021. It's pretty short, but it should give you a good idea of what she's doing these days. Let's see. 1 second. Okay, so
that's great.
now
I'm really glad that we could have a bit of Coretta in the event today. You know, we wish she was with us, but hopefully, you know, people will check out her work and might have an opportunity to talk to her in the future. Oh,
sorry.
Are you okay, Larry? What's happening?
I'm sorry. There was a video showing.
Okay, well, I'm going to kick off the next part of our event, and we wanted to give everybody a chance to really fill in a little bit more context for our audience about the animation industry, you know, in your different countries. It came up a couple of times when you were talking, you know, this idea of what kind of culture of animation exists or doesn't exist, what kind of facilities existed, didn't exist. One thing that was interesting that's been happening between here and the Facebook video, the comments, was that Ernesto was commenting as you were speaking, Camille. You know, that's one thing that we don't have in Cuba, and I hope we can have in the future is an animation school. But obviously it's very interesting to think about that in the context of Cuba's position, shall we say, in animation within the Caribbean as perhaps being one of the more prominent examples. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment on sort of the history of animation where you are and how that's evolved over the years. And I'll keep an eye out for Ernesto to add his comment and communicate that when I see it. So.
Yeah, I could start talk a little bit about. I mean, I'm no expert in animation history, but I did do some research when I was going to CalArts because I wanted to know, you know, what had happened in Puerto Rico as far as animation goes, and we actually have a pretty decent amount of history for hand-drawn animation and cell animation. There were a few artists. There was blanking his name now. Jose Luis Diaz de Villegas. I think he was Cuban, but he was like living in Puerto Rico. And he had animation studio that did commercials and stuff back in the day. And then with him, there was this experimental animator called Poli Marichal. She's Puerto Rican, and she went to Boston. She did like a master's in experimental animation, and she started working with Jose Luis Diaz de Villegas. And she was a pioneer of experimental animation for Puerto Rico, but it's a very little known fact. It's like all of this stuff I had to really, really dig in to find any information on this. And I'm lucky enough to have met Polly. She used to live in LA until recently. She moved back to Puerto Rico. And I interviewed her a little bit about it. And she told me how hard it was to produce animation in Puerto Rico at the time. And I think it was probably 70s and 80s. And part of it was like there wasn't an understanding of what it took, you know. So there was like a foundation in Puerto Rico that would give money for films, and they would give money for these animations. And there was a year when they gave money to 3 animated pieces of like short films, but the expectations were insanely unrealistic. You know, they wanted this 60-minute film to happen within 1 year and $3,000, and it's like that's just not how animation works, you know. And there was also Paco de Leon. He founded an animation studio called Animación Boricua, which was probably the most prominent animation studio that there has been in Puerto Rico, and it was during the 80s and part of the early 90s. And he also, I think he was part of that same grant that they gave that same year. They gave it 3 animated films. It was like Historia de los Tres Reyes Magos, the story of the 3 wise men, to Poli Marichal. They had Las Plumas del Múcaro, which is the one that Paco de Leon studio was doing. And then they had Jack Delano's. It was a story about trees. I don't remember the name of Jack Delano's film. And the Las Plumas del Múcaro, the Paco de Leon, was like the longest. It was like a 30-minute film at the end. And obviously, like he ended up funding it by the money they made in the studio. They were making commercials. They were outsourcing commercial hand-drawn animated stuff for Cheetos and like international just like commercials for Frito-Lay and all of these brands, and they would use that money to finish funding the La Pluma del Múcaro. And in the end there was like I don't remember the details, so I don't want to like say it in case I'm wrong, but there was something with authorship that became a dilemma, and the thing was never like published how it should have, because like the people who gave the funding, which was like a fraction of the final budget of the film, wanted to claim authorship over the piece, and then like it ended up in like this it just didn't work out the way it should have. And Paco de Leon had to shut down the studio in the early 2000s, because that was when hand-drawn animation was kind of a dying form. It seemed like it was a dying form, and everyone was turning to CGI, and his studio just couldn't afford the change. He couldn't afford new software, but there were people that were trained and worked under him. So there was this like sort of vanishing industry, you know. And Reinaldo Leon came out from there, and he's kept doing his stuff for hand-drawn kind of 2D animation, but it's like kind of like not really a vibrant industry. Like if there was ever a time where it seemed like it would be, was while Animación Boricua was going on. And then there was like a few years of nothing, and obviously like independent efforts have always been happening, but it's very just like, oh, this weird guy that draws in his studio, you know. But you don't really, it's not, there's not visibility for it. But nowadays we're very lucky to have a lot of animation happening in Puerto Rico. And there's also Paco de Leon used to teach at La Universidad de Sagrado Corazón for a little while, but also like when he shut down the studio, he stopped teaching. But now Atlantic College is doing a lot of teaching in animation, and a lot of students are graduating from there, and they're working at Gladius. They kind of did something similar to what Camille was explaining, you know. So they created a studio to kind of have work for the students that were graduating, and it's called Gladius Studio. And my really good friend and incredibly talented animator, Jamil Medina, who also plays a key role in the development of these younger animators in Puerto Rico. He started teaching at La Escuela de Artes Plásticas a few years ago, and a lot of animation started coming out of the Escuela de Artes Plásticas for the first time in a long time. Good quality animation, and he's an incredibly passionate teacher. And now he's moved on to working at Atlantic, and he runs Gladius, like all the creative aspects of Gladius, and they have amazing projects going into virtual reality as well, and a lot of CG. Still, the stop motion is I want to work on getting the stop motion more developed in Puerto Rico for sure, because I feel like it's fascinating. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's I really love stop motion. But yeah, that the Atlantic and Gladius effort is really important for younger generations of animators now. And then there's also like Puerto Ricans doing amazing animation outside of Puerto Rico. There's right now, just last week, my dear friend Guillermo Martinez, he is the head of story for Mitchells versus the Machine, which is, I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's like a movie that just came out in Netflix. It's a great, amazing movie, super funny. It's had like a great response from the audience and the world in general. And a Puerto Rican is the head of story for that movie. And then there's also Nikki Lopez. She's also a Puerto Rican, and she's living in LA, and she has a show that's called Santiago of the Seas that's on Nickelodeon. And it's about this pirate boy in the Caribbean. And it's like now like a full-on series that is being run from LA on Nickelodeon Studios. So there's a lot of stuff that really makes me proud and hopeful for animation in Puerto Rico. There's also Rangeli Garcia, I think is her last name, and she has her project De La Nada and Tripleta Studio, and she makes political content animations, really funny, great, great humor, but very, sharp critique as well. And there's every day I find out, oh, this is just like people that I personally know, and I've seen their work. And there's also a very important place for animators from Puerto Rico. It's a Facebook page founded by Guillermo Martinez, the guy who I was talking about, who did the Mitchells and the Machines. It's called Animadores Boricuas. And it's a Facebook page where every day I'm finding out of people that are doing amazing stuff and are Puerto Ricans. A lot of them are in the US, but there's also a lot of them in Puerto Rico. And like, it's a really great place to kind of like get to see how, you know, it's inspiring to people that are interested in it. And it's also a place that I really wish existed when I was growing up, because like I said, if I knew earlier, I would have done this for a longer time. But I have a lot of hope about where animation is going in Puerto Rico at the time. And I hope to be a part of it as well.
Great. Does anybody else want to comment? I'm gathering up Ernesto's comments and then I'll communicate them in a few minutes. But,
Alain, you want to go first or go ahead? You go ahead, Alain.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, Martinique, I'm going to talk about Martinique, the history of animation. As far as I remember, the very first artist that I know is from the 90s. In the middle of the 90s, there was an artist, a Martinican artist called Karim Saai. And he was really the first person that I know in Martinique who was using 3D. And back in the day, 3D was really something extremely expensive. Buying a car was actually cheaper than buying a software for doing 3D. It was really, really, really expensive. And Karim Saai left Martinique later, and he went to work on a very high-profile Hollywood film. And so it's now a great artist who travels the world. But after that, when I came back to Martinique, there was really nothing. Even the process of making animation, people didn't know anything about that. But there was, I believe there were three or four people who worked between the 90s and 2008 to create a feature film and try to develop animation industry. They were first a production studio called La Prod, but they closed in 2001, if I remember well. So it didn't go far. There was another studio, CVD Production, that is also closed nowadays, but back in the day in 2002, they tried to create not a school, but a class of animators, because I've been invited to be the teacher. And they were supposed to be given a budget from the government to create a studio. But when the time came for the government to pay, the government said they invented difficulty to actually not do that. There was also Euzhan Palcy. She's a really prominent person in Martinique because she's the first director. She's the first person who ever made a feature film in Martinique with Rue Cazeneuve. And she tried in the end of the 90s, she tried to create animation film with, I think it was with Fox Studio. And but I believe that after Titan AE, the studio got cold feet and they said, we don't want to go further. But a part of the pre-production was done. They were ready to go, but they couldn't go further because they were the owner of the title. And there was also Muriel Tramis, who is an engineer who created a video game, and she was one of the first to create video games, either in Martinique but also in the rest of the world. And she tried also to create a feature film, but now we came to the point where it was possible, but Martinique didn't believe that it was a priority. They didn't believe that animation was something that could bring something to Martinique. And after that, there was me. So I tried to do that, but to do this, I had to go in a very, very different kind of way, because I had to create the film by myself, something that is not done in the animation industry. And that is good to finish projects, but that is difficult for selling an industry. So we're trying to figure out what is going to happen. But so far, between 2005 and today, a lot of Martinican went to various schools in France, in Canada, in the UK, and they came back. Not all of them, but some of them came back, and they start creating small studios. So it's still a one-man studio, but we feel a little less alone. In 2014, two Martinican, Yohan Pahavade and Saïdou Barnabé, came back to Martinique. They worked on a very big film like Men in Black and The Minion. And they came back to create a school. And through this school, much more, well, a lot of Martinican can now access to a level of mastery that that will allow, I believe, in the future, the development of this industry. And so far, if we can summarize the animation history in Martinique, that's what I would say.
Okay,
oh, and just,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say that in 2015, because so far I've been in Martinique, I've been staying in Martinique, and so I've been invited by Camille in Trinidad for the Anime Caribe, and that's when I discovered that there were other countries. There was a Caribbean animation that was connecting with my culture, because so far I only knew France, and that allowed me also to find out that Jamaica also had an industry. So well, this connection, I believe, is going to allow things to happen in the future too.
I won't have much to add because, as I said before, we really did not have a history. I mean, that's just it. There was a young gentleman by the name of Matthew Hudson who was experimenting. He did some courses, and he's been doing some really, really good work. But I would say he was the first person. Before I came back to Trinidad, I was actually doing animation. I know in Jamaica, Floyd Norman, who is one of the masters when it comes to traditional animation, came to Jamaica and tried to open a studio. This would have been, I think, in the 70s. And Floyd Norman is one of the few African Americans who worked with the old men, the famous Disney old men. So he has that background, and he's worked with them. And he worked, I believe, he worked on the original Jungle Book, but came to Jamaica, tried to open a studio, but that didn't work out. So that I know for sure is something that is part of our history. The other Caribbean islands, not much at all. With Cuba, I visited Cuba a few times. And the ICAIC institution I agree with Jose about the fact that it's very children oriented. There is a stop motion artist called Joel Orteza, I think is his last name, but his film is called 20 Years. And he created that stop motion Inikake. That's a wonderful piece if you could find it anyway. I think I have a link to it. I could send it to you. So I know Cuba is doing some fabulous work, but I agree with Jose about that. So really and truly, we didn't have much of a history, and we now collaborate with Matnique. So Alain been to the festival. We have plans to work with him in the university. We now share the Parallel 14. We share classes with Parallel 14 in Matnique. So our lecturers teach some of the classes in Parallel 14's institution, and they also teach some classes at the university. So you have that kind of collaboration going on that will kind of really push the level to where it should be, but very, very little history.
If I can jump in and just communicate what Ernesto has been writing in the comments on Facebook. Obviously, you know, as most of us are aware, Cuba has over 60 years of history in animation, you know, has a very well-developed industry, but the difficulty is the lack of opportunity to commercialize it around the world. And so as a result, you know, most of the work stays within Cuba, and there's a lot of really great work being done, and it does sometimes travel via festivals. But obviously the embargo is a major factor in hampering the international accessibility of Cuban animation. There are two main studios, two official studios of animation in Cuba, the ICAIC, which is the Cuban National Film Institute, and then the ICR-TV, which is Cuba's Television and Radio Institute. So those are the two official ones, but in addition to that, there are lots of independent studios and collectives, such as Ernesto's own Erpiro studio, which is an independent one. And they sometimes work together with the official studios, and they can also be contracted from the outside to do work. So that opens up certain possibilities. What else? I just thought I'd mention, I asked Ernesto, but maybe he didn't see the message, you know, whether there's any particular animators that he would mention, you know, that are significant in the history of animation in Cuba. He hasn't replied, but from my own knowledge of animation in Cuba, I can't help but mention Juan Padrón, who is, you know, the animator of iconic films like Vampires in Havana and More Vampires in Havana, which is often an entry point for people to get to know Cuban animation film. And although, as Ernesto was saying, and as Camille, you were also saying, there is a tendency to orient animation towards children and adolescents in Cuba, I think even the example of Vampires in Havana is a good one to show how animation actually targets an adult audience as well, because there's lots of things in Vampires in Havana that I think would go over the heads of most children watching. Unfortunately, Juan Padrón passed away almost a year ago, exactly a year ago in March last year. So that's a big loss in the history of Cuban animation. But yes, there's a lot of young talent as well.
I have to make a quick correction on something I said earlier. My dad was texting me. I was saying Paco de León, but I meant Paco Lopez. So Paco Lopez is the one who made Animación Boricua. But there's Reinaldo de León who worked under him. So that's why I was getting confused. But it's Paco Lopez was. I'm sorry about that, Paco. I know him as a friend.
Wasn't Paco de León like a flamenco guitarist or something? Or am I
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's why the name was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to ask a question, and then I also want to encourage anybody who is watching, or you can add your questions. I don't know if we're getting any questions on Facebook. I will just mention that Maureen Furness did write in the chat that there are 2 positions teaching animation in CalArts. So if you are run and talk to her. If you are somebody who could teach animation and you would like to teach in CalArts, seems okay to me. So the question I would like to ask you is actually kind of a two-part question. And in one sense, you've been answering it. I think particularly Camille, this idea of making animation that really reflects Caribbean culture and traditions. So, you know, if you look at the Caribbean, of course, there are many immigrations to the Caribbean, the European, African is not exactly an immigration, but, you know, there are people coming from different parts of the world, Asia, Trinidad, you have many Indians. And I think a lot of people have talked about the Caribbean as Creole, or in French, or Creole, or Criollo in Spanish. However you want to define that, this sort of mixture of cultures, which creates something which is Caribbean, which is not from somewhere else. So the first part of my question is, I would like maybe any of you to comment on how in your own work or things that you've seen, you see that, you represent that. I think Camille, you made a point of doing that. And Alana was watching Battle Dream Chronicle, and I saw that you had what is it, a superhero or a tool called the Sukoyant, which I know is only in the Caribbean. So that is one thing. Like, one part of the question is, in what sense are you sort of representing things which are Creole, however you want to define that, Caribbean? The other thing about animation, though, is that you can do absolutely anything you want. You can make purple people who fly, and I'm sure that a lot of you do stuff like that. And so animation can be fantasy, can be sci-fi, can be insane, crazy, weird things that never could happen. But maybe that is something that is maybe attractive to you about animation, is that you can do that. So those are my two questions. In what sense are you doing? Are you making reference to things which are specifically Caribbean, Creole? And what about animation have you done, or that attracts you, that is just because it's crazy, weird, creative, impossible?
I can start.
Okay, go.
So it's an interesting question for me, because I feel like when I was in Puerto Rico, I was inevitably doing stuff that was related to my immediate context and upbringing. And Menuda Urbe, which was the piece that I applied to go to CalArts with, was is the one with, I mean, it was the beginning of the demo reel that I showed you, where you had the cutout coins and the flying bird in this like chaotic city. That was literally made from pictures around the block where I had my studio and where I lived. And I was talking about, you know, about urbanization, things that were happening in that specific area of Santurce. And it had a political content and context. And the bird that I'm using is like a bird that is very significant to Puerto Ricans because they're everywhere. But then as soon as I moved out here, without realizing it really at first, I started emulating other types of storytelling and visual storytelling. And I kind of departed a little bit from the more criollo content, but still inspired by, you know, the second film that I made was the lionfish delusion, which conceptually is talking about the lionfish plague. That is a plague that's in the Caribbean. It's like taking over all the reefs of the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico. But the visual style that I was using was like a film noir. So you could say it's kind of like an aesthetic that doesn't really talk about, you know, the Caribbean in any way. But I am using a topic, you know. So then as I started working on more commercials, I started working on more and more just like pleasing the eye of the viewer kind of things in a way. And obviously it's a bit of a trap because you need money to be able to keep working, and you need to work on stuff that is commercial, you know. So I feel like I departed a little bit from the more kind of like identity related creation. But as soon as I realized it, I started kind of like, I tried to keep myself in check. The problem is it's hard to find time to do what you want to do in the end, you know, to make my own personal films when I have to be able to afford rent in a place like Los Angeles. And I have this, my next short film that I have been working on it for the past 3 years on and off. You know, it doesn't really take 3 years to make, but it's just, I have to do it in the 2 weeks that I have in between jobs, or you know, it's very hard to set aside time without having the funding. But I try to, I feel like that one really, it's kind of like, it will be the film that will make up for me being silent on my identity in a way. And more and more I want to try to work on those kind of projects, and try to, like, you know, regain my voice again. Other than that, I also agree, you know, to me, it's all been fun. I'm not saying that what I have been doing, it's something that I'm not proud of in any way. But it's definitely explorations, you know, we're fed, you know, this, since we grow up watching this kind of things, which is kind of like the mainstream, whatever the mainstream, global mainstream is feeding us is what we want to aspire to subconsciously, you know. But I feel like this has worked for me in helping me learn these tools and now be able to bring it to my own work, you know. And I've been able to do short little projects here and there that can still kind of ground me again to Puerto Rico and my upbringing, but not in the capacity that I would like to be able to. But I'm working on it every time I get a chance. And finally, on the second, on the second part of the question, is like, I really, you know, they say if you're gonna make an animated film, it better be worth it that it's animated, because it's so, I mean, it's such an incredible endeavor. You know, like making an animated film is, you know, it's like, it's very, very complicated and takes a lot. And why would you make a film that you could just grab actors and film it and do it, you know? There has to be something special about the piece that makes you want to do it in animation. And in that end, like, you know, I think, like you were mentioning, you could do Purple People, you know, it's not from anywhere in the world, you know. So I do like the possibilities of just making whatever you want without being tied necessarily to, like, oh, I have to speak of my experience, because you'll be talking about your experience in whatever you make, you know. There's no way you can avoid that. So, you know, it's kind of finding the balance on that.
Okay, so I can jump in here. So I think my answer, both answers will be rolled into one response, because the one time that I actually did that was with my student film, where I felt like I needed to say something, but I was in a space where I know I may be misunderstood. It may even affect my, you know, my grades. It's, you know, back then I wasn't too sure how I'd get this message across. And it was to do with colonization as a Caribbean person, and being under the, you know, the British rule for so long, and my parents having to, you know, to deal with that, and the education system having to deal with that, and how it's affecting the Caribbean now, and how it's still affecting the Caribbean, and how do I use animation to get that message across and get a good grade still, because that, you know, you want a good grade still. So I totally did what you said there, Mary. I took the story of my experience, and why also, just to add, why I was thinking about that, because we were covering Frantz Fanon in cultural studies at the university, and Frantz Fanon, a cultural critic, I do believe, Alain, he's from Martinique or Guadeloupe. He has that connection, right? So he's Caribbean, but at that point he was a cultural critic, psychology, all things mixed into one. And we were reading him, and he was talking about culture, and how as a Caribbean, how we have to kind of deconstruct, break apart the culture that we consider norm, that we consider to be accepted, which is the traditional and the nice things, the beautiful things, the classical music, and and how we as Caribbean people have to break that apart in order for our voice to be heard. And he used the example of jazz music, where the jazz musicians at the time literally broke up that beautiful classical song of classical music. And at the time, it was deemed dirty and unacceptable, and jazz was like, how could you listen to this? And this is where jazz is today. But we had to break apart what was normal in order for that to happen. So my little tiny student film, I was so ambitious. My student film was about that. But of course, it's a short film. But what I did was take two characters that were not human, that were just things. And the story was that these two characters that were designed as little blobs were put onto an island by a painter. The painter represented the concept of God, not God in the biblical sense, the concept of God, and the concept of God being an artist. And that artist put two very, unique little characters on this island to live. And one of the characters just felt, well, no, my way of thinking is the best way of thinking, so therefore you would follow what I say to do. And the whole story was around that. And in the end, the two characters realized that, it doesn't matter what both of them do, the one who's doing the painting is in control. And that's what I did. And I think that is why I went on and won the Royal Television Society Award. But one of the things that I did that kind of broke the traditional framework of animation in England was that I used the Trinidad voice. And that took a lot of, literally, I had to think about this long and hard. And I'm like, why am I thinking if it's okay to put my voice? Why is that something I have to think about? I should just naturally want to put my voice, but I had to think about it. And I have to tell you, we still have to think about it to this day if we are creating content. Do you want to put this beautiful voice that you're hearing here for the world to hear, right? And what I did, I took my cousin who has never acted before, who is also Trini, and I said, okay, come, I want you to record this narration and just do it normal and naturally. So the voiceover for my film, which was called The Masterpiece, spelled Master P-E-A-C-E, was a Trinidad voice, right? And when it won the award, I was invited to the Canadian Embassy in Trafalgar Square. I was the only Black person in the room. I was the only female animator in the room. And I was the only Caribbean person with a funny voice in the room. And it was filled with lots of people. And when the film was screened, a little British lady, old British lady, came over to me and she said, young lady, my head was in my book. I was reading the schedule, and I heard your film, and I had to get up and look. And that is my mantra for life, because my voice was so different that she had to look up, because she's never heard this voice before. And this is what I think. It's a bit of a risk we're taking, but we have to express our own voice in order for anybody to turn around and look, because we are going to be sharing something that is unique. So that's my answer. I think I answered both questions in one there.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, so important, isn't it, to offer your own unique perspective and balancing between your own individual vision and trying to create something that people will see themselves in as well. I'm just going to add what Ernesto's been writing as we've been chatting. He talks about how he's very much inspired by the Cuban context, the absurd way of approaching life or experiencing life that he feels is particular to Cuba, their sense of humor, the way that they laugh at themselves and their own problems, their own particular version of Spanish, the colloquial local Cuban Spanish, but also tries to connect with what's happening on an international level. So for example, he made a short film called Guajiros, which combines the sort of countryside campesino culture of Cuba with Japanese mecha animations, which he was watching, or he used to watch as a child in the cinema, and which obviously still continue to this day. He also makes some works, commissioned works that respond to more universal themes, as was the case with the series that we saw a clip from, Pubertad, Puberty. And in terms of the way that he creates his animations, he tries to always make it in such a way that it could be understood by everybody, even though if it's talking about something very local, as was the case with an animation that he made called Sin pelos en la lengua, which means literally without hairs on your tongue, but it means to speak clearly or directly without beating around the bush, or Todo por Carlitos, everything for Carlitos, which are examples of his work that you can see on his YouTube channel as well. So it's about achieving that, I guess, again, it's about achieving that balance between expressing or responding to a local reality and doing it in such a way that other people can understand what's happening, can access it.
For myself, it's it has been a discovery of myself, and also a discovery of how the French system works. So my two first short films were very different from the rest of my filmography, because those films were representing the people from my island, I believe, in the very wrong way. But that was something that I've been internalized, because I was taught this way. And I learned this at school. This was normal to me. And what shocked me was not that it failed. What shocked me was that it was well received and it was awarded. So I was really sad that that we were showing something that was not really great for the culture, and that was applauded. So I decided to learn symbolist art, and to learn symbolism and how it works and what everything represents, to know, to be in control of what I show in a film, and deconstruct this language, this cinematic language that we use to represent ourselves in Martinique. And it has been a battle so far, because the French system really wants, they really want French artists to diminish themselves in their films. So when you show a Martinican, he always has to be kind of inferior to what it means to be French from the mainland France. And so I've been fighting that. So in 2008, when I wanted to create my first feature film, I really I was already doing it, but I really wanted to study what made us different. And the first thing that appeared to me to be different is the representation of men and women in the society. We are a matrifocal society, so it's close to matriarchal, but it's not completely matriarchal. But it's really different from the patriarchal society, to the point that when a Martinican person go in North American or European family, they're going to be surprised by the power play between the different people in the family, because it's really awkward and it doesn't exist in Martinique. So I wanted to represent that, because that means strong female leads, the mother being the center of everything, the woman being really stronger than what we see in the mainstream or the Western animation. So that was the first thing that I wanted to represent. And the second thing was when when I saw what cinema was supposed to do, what was expected from us, it really gave me a direction, a compass to what to do to allow the island to express, to enrich his artistic expression today and in the future. So that was what made me do this research, this go into this direction to implement our authors, because, for example, in my feature film, I include Aimé Césaire. I include some of the places that we see in Martinique, like high schools and part of Fort-de-France, the main city, and those were not represented in anything. And what was surprising is that people see that and they really see the originality. They're happy to discover something new. Another thing, the folklore, the tales from Martinique, that is really, really close to the tale in Saint Lucia, in Trinidad, in Jamaica. The Soukouyan, for example, that we see in Battle Dream is from our folklore, but it's shared in a lot of places in the Caribbean. The Moment de l'eau, that is, I believe in Trinidad, it's Mami Wata. I'm not sure, but yes, I think so. So those are creatures that we don't see them in mainstream animation, and I wanted to show that this is us. And what was not planned was that when I screened the film for young kids, those young kids were so happy to see themselves. They wanted to create more of themselves, that gives them the desire to create something about their island, and not to create animation, but like, for example, North America or Europe. And that is a first win. And to me, that is the right way to represent your country. And every country can do that. For example, France can do it, Germany can do it, the UK can do it, the United States too. And I believe that for Martinique, it's very new, but it's a really interesting journey.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I believe that Carlos has a question for Kike. I think you can unmute your mic, right? If not, let me know. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. My question for Kike is if you know of any animated film that uses or has used salsa or tropical music for their music score in their film in Puerto Rico or elsewhere.
Animated film. I know that coming back to Paco Lopez, he did an animation for Rubén Blades. What was the name of it? It was a music video for Rubén Blades that he did while going to school in Mexico. Something with Elena. I wish I could look it up real quick. But I mean, other than that, I don't know all the filmography of animated films from Puerto Rico. I can definitely pinpoint that one because I remember it. But I'm sure, I mean, a lot of Puerto Rican productions make sure to use Puerto Rican music. So I would imagine it's well used.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm gonna try to, while you guys keep talking, I'm gonna try to find the name of the song.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think we've been talking for 2 hours, and we said this would be kind of 1.5 to 2 hours, and maybe if some of you want to stretch or something. So if I would say that unless there are other things that people want to ask or comments that you want to make, maybe we should have a conclusion here. And remember that you are free to always come back and look at this video. This video will always be on our page in Facebook, along with the other events, so you can watch it again. You can also contact us via Facebook. We are very happy if you tell us that there's something you would like us to do, you know? So what kind of events should we do? Who should we invite? What do you want to know? So please propose ideas to us, write comments on our page, watch the videos, comment on the videos, contact us. We're very happy. Kike.
And also comments on the video that we've been rolling, because we've had a lot of saludos from all over the world, Central America, the Caribbean, North America, I think Europe as well, and lots of admiration and support for Caribbean animation, which is really amazing to see.
Yeah, check it out and see if you see your friends there.
I found the song. The song is Ligia Elena, and it's a bit of an obscure music video. I don't know if it's easily available. I think I saw it once on YouTube, but it's called Ligia Elena. I'll write it in there. Okay. And my friend Jamil, whom I was talking about earlier, he also reminded me that they did a, which you should download. There's like this little game for your phone called Ese Pobre Lechón, and it's about this pig that is escaping being part of a meal in Puerto Rico, and it's very criollo. You'll love it, and the music is parranda music, which I mean it's not salsa, but it's like very it's just
Christmas
like
music.
It's Christmas music from Puerto Rico, like traditional Christmas music. And you're
lechon
collecting kind of instruments.
And lechon is what you eat for Christmas dinner, right? So I guess
Right,
the lechon is
right.
running away, and we can all laugh at
Yeah,
the lechon. at
you
Christmas.
don't want him to get caught because you're the pig in the. I'm writing the name of it in the chat as well. It's a Puerto Lechón and Ligia Elena. I put both of them.
Great.
So much. It's been really helpful.
Well, I guess maybe we should wrap it up. Dunya, I don't know, anything else that you would like to say?
No, I mean, Ernesto's been telling us in the comments about an interesting experience he had at a festival in Bulgaria, where they were talking about how Cuban animation was received and how it was perceived to be quite American, and I think American continental sense compared to European animation in its kind of concept and the aesthetics, the way that it's edited and put together. So it's interesting, isn't it, to have that experience, you know, of festivals and international reception, and to see what people pick up on and how they kind of perceive and categorize what you're creating. But I hope that our audience, you know, will go away and have a look at more of your work, and that we can maybe continue discussing and see maybe even some future collaborations come out of this event. That would be lovely.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. This has been fantastic, really. And so you are preserved for posterity. And, you know, and so, and just, we will be continuing. Yeah, if anybody wants to share their contact information, you can also share your information on the Facebook page if you want, you know, or if anyone is trying, I presume it's fine with you if we share your information if people are interested in contacting you. And we will be continuing with Caribbean Film Forum. We have several events coming up. We don't want to sort of say definitely, because we're still working on the details, but we have most probably in another 3 weeks, we will be announcing soon our upcoming events. So please like our page, stay tuned, check out the events, click the notifications so that you get our notifications, and expect in about 3 weeks, there's going to be another really interesting event about Caribbean cinema. So thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.